Hi again, Panther fans, and welcome to the Panther Insider Podcast, driven by Ford. This is Dave Cohen, the radio voice of the Panthers. On our latest show, we go inside Georgia State Beach Volleyball's program as we recap a tremendously successful season. 26-13, the final record. We're going to talk with veteran head coach Beth Van Fleet. She herself, a former Georgia State student athlete, and I might add, the Sun Belt Conference Coach of the Year. We'll talk to her about that. Georgia State Beach Volleyball making their third straight trip to the National Collegiate Beach Volleyball Championship and fifth overall. The Sun Belt Conference champion Sandy Panthers recently earned the number 14 seed, and they face number 3 seeded Stanford in the opening round of the NCAA Beach Volleyball Championships down in Gulf Shores, Alabama. We're going to welcome Coach Van Fleet to the microphones in just a moment. If you've missed any of our previous Panther Insider podcasts, of course, they're all available on our Apple Archives page. You can access that online at georgiastatesports.com. Again, we're talking Georgia State Beach Volleyball on our latest Panther Insider podcast. Let's welcome head coach Beth Van Fleet. Very, very busy in recent weeks, but congratulations on a great season and above and beyond that, or congratulations on Sun Belt Conference Coach of the Year honors. That's great.
Thank you so much for having me on today. It's always an honor and a privilege to get to talk about our program and the incredible women that have built it. The Sun Belt Conference this year was so much fun. It's gotten remarkably competitive. It was a huge honor to be Coach of the Year. I think we all have tremendous respect for each other within the conference, and to be selected for that really meant a lot. And I honestly have to give all the props to the team because they make my job so easy.
Well, it's a relatively still, when we look at Georgia State athletics, it's still a relatively young program, but the amount of success that the program has had compared to, some other beach volleyball programs that are even in the Southeast, when you look at it, it's like, well, how is she getting it done to the level she's getting it done in Atlanta, where they've got X number of beach volleyball courts downtown in between the back of the Georgia State Sports Arena and the train tracks?
Yeah, I think we get that question a lot. We are super lucky that our administration really invests in our program and believes in our program and supports our program. So we've had an incredible amount of support from the administration, the coaches, the support staff. That's helped tremendously. We work a ton on our team culture, and that really drives this program. We have built a culture of success, and we are still working to try and grow and improve at all times. But I do think that's very attractive for a lot of the younger athletes that are looking into the college space. And so it's great that we've been able to maintain a top 20 ranking for the last couple of, actually since it started. That keeps our name relevant, and we're able to do that because of the support from Charlie and Kelsey.
What was the final ranking this year, or has that come out yet? Post-tournament.
That will come out this afternoon. So I'm not sure, but technically we tied for 9th. There was 9 of us that tied for 9th, but it was a really great run, and it was an incredible season.
Again, 26-13, undefeated in conference play in the Sun Belt, 9-0. Again, unfortunately lost to third-ranked, a third-seeded Stanford in the NCAA Beach Volleyball Championship, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Not only this year, Coach, but you're the defending Sun Belt Conference champions, and we could say Georgia State is a beach volleyball school because you've been to the beach volleyball NCAA championships now, not once, but 3 consecutive years and 5 overall.
Yeah, we are so proud of the work that the team has put in for that. Getting to compete in the Sun Belt was truly a dream come true for our team last year. It's something that we've gotten to walk around the halls and see all of the other teams competing for the Sun Belt, and it's such a nice way to unite the entire department. So when your whole athletics department is competing in the Sun Belt, really working hard to represent Georgia State with pride, it's something we weren't able to do for years and years. And so as soon as Sun Belt picked up beach volleyball, we jumped at that opportunity. I remember those texts and the calls going on, all the seniors, everybody was super excited. And knowing that we have 2 ways to get to the national championship. You can get an AQ through the Sun Belt, or we can earn an at-large bid. And every year that is our goal, to do both of those things so that you have a little bit of a plan and then a backup plan.
And we'll talk a little bit more about East Coast beach volleyball, West Coast beach volleyball, so on and so forth. Also, the breakdown in the conferences, as they are in the world that you guys play in, which is mainly Sun Belt and Conference USA. and CCSA. But one thing I did want to mention, you mentioned creating the culture of success that you have built here, you and your staff. One thing I looked at when I was looking at the overall schedule, I counted beginning to end 19 matches against top 25 opponents. And these are schools like Florida Atlantic, who, of course, Georgia State used to be in a league with back in the old ASUN days, South Carolina, Florida State, Tampa, which is a really good beach volleyball school, Stetson, who we have a long history with, but Long Beach State, Grand Canyon, Hawaii, California, UCLA, and LSU. You didn't shy away from playing anybody.
We certainly didn't, and that's part of the plan for earning an at-large bid. You want to go measure your skills against the skills of some of the best teams in the country to see where our weaknesses are, the areas that we need to build in our game. So we try to do that earlier in the season so that we can collect that data and improve throughout the end of the season.
How tough is it to put a schedule together in beach volleyball? Because as I mentioned, and we'll talk in the second half of our Panther Insider podcast, again, with what has become the Sun Belt beach volleyball, it's still relatively young. Well, it is still young. Conference USA, as we mentioned, CCSA, which is still run by the Atlantic Sun Conference, one of Georgia State's previous homes. But how difficult is it to put together a schedule, especially where you're playing 19 matches against top 25 programs?
Yeah, scheduling is like the Wild West, a giant puzzle. We don't have any sort of conference schedules in beach, and I think that's one of the most appealing things because we have such a short season. We are able to compete for 16 days in our regular season and then whatever happens in postseason. So if we're traveling for a weekend, that's 2 days. Like, it's literally an 8-week season. And so it's very nice not to be told you have to play this school on this day at this time. So all of the college coaches schedule their own. And it's a lot of conversations, text messages, emails. Hey, we're hosting on this date. Who do you have coming? We're looking for more schools here. And so we've already started putting together the schedule for next year. We're really excited. We're going to go to Texas for the first time. They just started a program this year. So we'll head out there next year. But it is very much almost up into the last minute of making sure that you're getting as many matchups for the conference, but then as many top 20 matchups as well.
I was going to say, we say sometimes in basketball and even in football, this stretch is a gauntlet.
Yep.
There's not what we'll call an easy game in that. And as you look at your beach volleyball schedule this year, it's almost like your entire season was a gauntlet.
It really was. And how quickly all of the teams are becoming so much more competitive. It's such an inspiration. It's so incredible to be out there amongst all of the women that are just working so hard. And you're watching programs that last year were pretty easy to beat. This year, they are fighting for everything and they're pushing us to every single limit. And I think that's what we celebrate, is the growth of the sport, the growth of the athletes, the growth of the people that are investing in the game. And so to see the entire sport continue to rise at such a steep learning curve is really incredible. And it's a challenge to stay on top of that, obviously, with our team remaining relevant and significant and competitive. And it's, I think, one of the neatest things that the beach culture does is the coaches all collaborate. So as we're going to different events over the summer, we'll talk about training techniques, philosophies, like, hey, what did you do? I noticed your team did this really well this year. How did you guys train that? And I think it's a very open communication among the coaches, and I think that's part of the reason that this sport is growing so quickly.
All right, as I mentioned, all those schools, all those top 25 schools, and I'm going to get you to kind of recap the NCAA championships that you just came out of, again, down in Gulf Shores against the Stanford Cardinal. But was there a point in the season where you kind of recognized that maybe this team was, again, special in its own way? And, of course, you never know exactly what's going to happen, but was there a point where you thought, hey, this team has an opportunity to do something really special?
Certainly. This year, so last year, we didn't have much fluctuation in our lineup at all. And going into this year, that was something that we kept talking about in the locker room and all of our team meetings, is we have so much depth this year that we are going to be moving people in and out of the lineup as we're looking for the most dynamic pairs, right? We want to represent Georgia State to the very best of our ability. I know as a coach, I get it wrong early in the season because I'm trying to learn just as much as the athletes are learning. And so I think literally opening weekend, after the first day, we started off, we lost to Arizona State and FAU. So that was a really tough opening day for us because in both games we were very close and arguably could have won both of them, and got with our leadership council that night and kind of looked and said, all right, what are the changes we're going to make for tomorrow? Because this is something we've already talked about, that we're not going to shy away from making changes. And so seeing that buy-in from the team on day one of season was incredible to me, that it was people saying, hey, if there is a better pair than me and this person, let's do that. And like having that selfless mindset so that the team could flourish to the best of its ability.
All right, so you just said something that just leads me into this next question. As head coach, tell me about this leadership council. Yeah. You don't see that necessarily. Well, teams have captains, whether it's basketball or maybe football. Mm-hmm. Tell me about the leadership council that you've put together and that you entrust your players to lead within the beach volleyball program.
Yes, absolutely. So our leadership council is comprised of 4 players, and we've done this every year except for the COVID year. COVID was an asterisk across the board. Generally, we will have at least 1 freshman, and they're all elected by the team. And we talk about the different types of leadership. So we're looking for vocal leaders. Those are the most rare at this time. It's really scary to be the person speaking up and holding the team to the standard because you put a big target on your back and you also are not perfect. And so that's a scary role to fill. So we're generally looking for 2 vocal leaders. We want to look for people that are leading by example. We want to look for 1 or 2 servant leaders as well. So with the team, we talk about all the different styles of leadership. And then when they nominate 4 people, again, including 1 freshman or underclassman, and they also say why they're nominating this person, so that when we get the council together, we say, hey, Dave, you were nominated as the vocal leader, so your team is trusting you to take this role. They want you to take this role because this is important. And so when it's uncomfortable, everybody in this group has your back. I think one of the biggest components of our success is team ownership, in the sense of Maddie Del Monte and I are not trying to lead by fear. We're not trying to lead by threats. We're trying to lead by empowerment. And with college athletes, there's a very, very thin line between empowerment and entitlement. So we always want to stay on that side of empowerment, but so much of it comes back to ownership in the program. So in the fall, we will drive, we will push, we will help them to set the standard. Once we start competing, if they're all bought into the standard, Maddie and I literally will just kind of take the back seat and say, you guys run with it. Let us know where we need to push, where you need us to support. And let's all work together in this, because when we're working together and the people on the team know that the team is theirs, that they're taking the ownership, it makes playing for each other so much more meaningful.
And obviously it's working within and around your program. All right, before we go to break, and again on the second half we'll talk more about Georgia State beach volleyball, but tell fans about Gulf Shores. A fantastic experience. Didn't get the result you wanted, but you were there, and you get to you got to face number 3 seeded again, the Stanford Cardinal. Talk about that whole experience of taking the team down to Gulf Shores and to the NCAA beach volleyball regionals yet again.
Getting to go to Gulf Shores is every player's dream from the time they start playing in high school. So there is a gigantic juniors tournament right next to the national championship, and every single person on our team will tell you how they played in that tournament when they were 14, 15, 16, and how they couldn't wait to be somebody on the other side of the fence playing in that 4-5 spaces for the national championship. So I think that right out of the gates means so much to each of the young women on our team that are getting to kind of bridge that gap. But getting to take the team to the national championship is an incredible experience. It's a whirlwind. Gulf Shores does a phenomenal job of hosting a top-notch event. The support staff they have from volunteers and the community, they just absolutely embrace this event every single year, and every single person feels so seen, so special, so included to be there. And it really helps to allow all the teams to just kind of show up and play freely and play as hard as they can in this pursuit of this national championship.
All right, so again, it was the 3rd-seeded Stanford Cardinal. Yes. And again, we'll talk a little more East Coast beach volleyball, West Coast beach volleyball. And then we'll talk a little bit about your playing experience, too, for anyone that is not familiar with your background as a former Georgia State student-athlete. But obviously Stanford, as you well know, I mean, that's one of the well-known, we'll call it West Coast beach volleyball programs with a long pretty long history.
Yes, Stanford is an incredible, incredible program. They are a powerhouse team indoors, and the beach team took a huge jump this year. So for the past couple of years, they've been in that top 20 mix, and then this year they just catapulted to the top 5. And it's incredible because they have a freshman in every single flight except for their 5s. So they are building a program that's going to be a powerhouse in beach as well. They are incredibly well coached. Their discipline was it was so much fun to compete against them, to see how they were trying to play us and then to adjust to their strategies and kind of punch back. And that was what we talked about going in. We know they're going to have big blockers. We're going to have to make them move. Their defenders are going to be savvy. They're going to make great defensive reads. They're going to stop some of our hits, and we have to keep problem solving. And so I think getting to play a team like Stanford, that's 100%. We want to kind of punch early and set the standard, but then adjust and problem solve throughout the match. And I think we got to do that really well. I was really impressed with how hard we played. I think every single person in our program, staff included, left that match with our heads held high, but also a head full of, okay, we're going to work on this, and this going into next year. Very inspired after that match.
All right, we're talking Georgia State Beach Volleyball coming off their NCAA Beach Volleyball Championship. We're recapping their season again, 26-13, 9-0 in Sun Belt Conference play. We're going to talk more with the Sun Belt Conference Coach of the Year, Beth Van Fleet. We'll be back to talk more beach volleyball following these words from Ford and Center Park Credit Union.
Wherever you go this fall, greatness starts in a Ford SUV. That's because Ford Escape, Explorer, and the spirited Bronco Sport SUVs have the power, cargo space, and smart tech you need for tailgating on game day, camping under the stars, fall festivals, romantic dinner dates, concerts, antiquing, pumpkin picking, weekend getaways, school plays. For great offers on these versatile SUVs, see your local Ford dealer today. Greatness starts here.
Center Park Credit Union, the official financial sponsor of GSU football, is proud to be a part of the Georgia State community and the Panther athletics program. Center Park provides members convenient financial services. In addition to online banking, mobile banking, and 7 Metro Atlanta branches, Center Park members have access to 5,000 co-op shared branches and 75,000 surcharge-free ATMs nationwide. To find a location near you, visit online at centerpark.org/contact, and that's park with a C. Not a member? Join today at centerpark.org. At Center Park, we help our members flourish. We're back on the Panther Insider Podcast, driven by Ford. This week we're talking Georgia State Beach Volleyball. Sunbelt Coach of the Year, Beth Van Fleet, and the Sandy Panthers recently back from Gulf Shores, where they lost to third-seeded Stanford in the NCAA Beach Volleyball Championships. And, Coach, once again, as we were talking about, as you continue to build this program, and I think the program is pretty much built, you've got it up to 33,000 feet. How difficult is it year in and year out in the world of college athletics that we live in now to know you're coming back next year at the same caliber with what you have been at with the last 2-3 seasons? Because you're going to lose some pretty good players off of this year's team, aren't you?
Yes, we're actually graduating Angel and Bella Ferrari, Lise Saga, and Lila Bordis. And all 4 of them have been incredible contributors to this program. They are definitely irreplaceable humans, but that's the beauty of a team is they have been training right alongside the underclassmen that are going to be ready to step into some of those spaces and fill them, not necessarily the same shoes in their own shoes, but they're going to put their signature on this program as well. Definitely graduating this senior class, it hurts my heart. I love all those kids so much. I would keep them here forever. But I'm also very excited for the next year. And I think what we do as a staff over the summer is we go to a lot of different recruiting opportunities. We do a bunch of different clinics. We work a lot with other coaches, and we share a lot of ideas. And so coming back in, I'm a huge fan of stealing great ideas, and we'll name it after whoever we learned it from. So we have all sorts of different, we have like UAB drills, FIU drills, like anything we learn from another school, we bring it back in, give them credit where credit is due, and then figure out how we can use some of that to make our team a little bit more deeper with dimension. And so a lot of the summer activities for our coaching staff is more of a continued education focus also while we're recruiting, so that we can bring fresh ideas to the team, try some things on, see what fits, see what doesn't fit, and then move forward.
When I reference building a program, coaches are always building programs. I mean, there are up years, there are down years. But one thing I did want to point out, which I probably should have pointed out in the first segment, again, 26-13 and 9-0. That record is the second most wins in program history, the 26. And coming off of a 26-win season this year, that's 8 straight seasons with 20 or more wins. So you have been able to, when I say level off at 33,000 feet, making an airplane reference, you have been able to continue to build, but to also maintain the level of success that you have been playing with these last 8-9 years.
Yeah, so much of that goes to the credit of the team. We work so hard to make sure everyone feels valued and included, and that the only way we accomplish our goals is if everybody on the team has value and is working towards the same goal. We do a lot of work with Latrice Lewis. She's our sports psychologist. She meets with the team weekly during season and really helps to have some of those hard conversations to help with visualization, communication, and setting goals and achieving goals. We spend a lot of time, every team meeting, we have 3 goals that everyone sets for themselves each week, and we discuss that. So a lot of it is kind of figuring out what has worked over time, keeping the things that are working, and then refreshing some of the things that are maybe a little bit outdated.
You just mentioned Angel and Bella Ferrari. Georgia State Athletics, Georgia State University has done a really good job telling their story and putting them out there in the news cycle. They've kind of become, along with yourself, for lack of a better term, the face of Georgia State beach volleyball. Talk about, what it was like when they got here, but, their growth and their maturation, not just as individuals, but as beach volleyball players, and what they've meant to the program. I mean, they have kind of made people in their own way stand up and take a look at Georgia State beach volleyball and everything that you guys have been doing here in the program.
Yes, Angel and Bella actually sat right here in these 2 chairs when they were on their recruiting visit, and they said, we want to play for a national championship, and we think that we can do it here at Georgia State. You guys have been there before, and we want to help you go back. And so having, one, it's easier to have confidence when you've got someone at your side, but that's not something that you hear all prospective student athletes come in and say, we want to go play for a national championship. So hearing that language out of them at such a young age and understanding that goal that they had set for themselves very early on really resonated with us. They are 100% the outliers of beach volleyball. So for anybody that's familiar with beach volleyball right now, we're getting ready to send teams to the Olympics. And there's a pair from LSU, Taryn Cloth and Kristen Nuss. And Kristen Nuss has been the outlier. She's like maybe 5'6", 5'7". And college, they said she's not big enough to do it. She graduated college as, I think, one of the most winningest players of all time, of all schools. Got to the professional level. They said she's not going to be able to do it. She won her first professional event here in Atlanta. And so I think sports love the outliers that succeed, very much like that underdog concept. And Angel and Bella are exactly that. They are 5'4", so they are too short to play beach volleyball, probably in high school. They're too short to play beach volleyball in college for sure. And they're definitely too short to play together in the top flight for any top 20 school. And for them, defying all of those odds is so much of who they are. They play with a chip on their shoulder. And they also are they are very fiery and spicy to each other when they're playing. It's incredible because the second they come off of the court, they are loving, caring, but as soon as they step on the court, it's like they clock in, they're in a different space, and they get after it. They're always respectful to the officials and to their opponents, but they can be really harsh to each other. And that combination of 2 players that are too short to be playing this game at a high level and doing what they're doing, and they're yelling at each other, it just attracts so much attention because everybody wants to see if the wheels are going to fall off, and they don't. That's what's so special about that pair is they are going to fight for everything to keep the wheels on and figure out how to take down, the 6'4" person that's on the other side of the net from them.
Okay, so tell Panther fans from a coaching standpoint, and I was able to watch some of them Georgia State match against Stanford when you guys were down in Gulf Shores. From a coaching standpoint, what are you focused on when you're on the side of the sand watching your number one pair or your number one flight in action? And then what are you and your assistant doing with the other flights, because there's 1 through 5?
Yeah, so when we go to the national championship, also the conference championship, all 5 flights play at once. So I think one of the neatest things that our team has done is we've built flight crews. So we have 18 athletes on our roster, and each one of them is part of one of the flights. So we would have 4 flights that had 4 players and then 2 flights that had 3 players. And so they're going to work together to create the game plan when they're going to adjust, and all of those eyes, all of those hearts, all of those heads are going to work together to accomplish those goals. So the first thing that I always say when I'm working with Angel and Bella is my goal is to keep them in the yellow. And we've just used the stoplight, red light, yellow light, green light. All players want to play in the green light where they're flowing and they're not too critical of mistakes. You want to avoid the red because that's where mistakes are limiting how we're thinking and the decisions we're making. And getting into the yellow gets a little bit dangerous. That's generally the thought. Angel and Bella think that if you play in the green, you don't care. So they come over the line in yellow, and my goal is to keep them from going into the red. And initially, I think I helped them a lot with that, and I think they matured to figure out when they were getting close to the red in competition and pulling themselves back out of it. So this year, that was really important to them, that they didn't always have a coach on their court because they wanted to manage that emotional piece as well as the strategic piece. With the other 5, with all 5 flights, we would generally start Maddie Del Monte, and we call her Delmo. So if I say Delmo, that's what I'm talking about. She would start with our 3s, with Savannah and Destiny. Delmo played on our team for 5 years and understands our defenses better than I do. And Savannah and Destiny are able to run all of them. So she is a great brain to work with them. Chloe, our third coach, would generally start on either the 2s with Lila and RA, or the 5s with, in the national championship, it was Courtney and Ayla. And then I would kind of bounce around to fill in the gaps wherever. And so our concept is to have 1 or 2 coaches that are really sitting with the pair and doing everything they can to know that game. And then the flight crews were helping me as I was moving from court to court, saying, hey, this is what they got to work on. This is what's working. Tell them to keep doing these things.
Newcomer of the year was Ari Keller, and this is the Sun Belt Conference postseason awards. Of course, you got Coach of the Year. Congratulations again. Newcomer of the year was Ari Keller, so that's a little bit of your future right there. Mm-hmm. First team was Ari Keller and Lila Bordas, and Angel and Bella, and Savannah, Ebarb, and Destiny White. So congrats to them on, you got three pairs. First team all Sun Belt Conference, and then you got Newcomer of the Year, which is again part of your future.
Yeah, it was a really incredible season, especially getting to see. So those 3 pairs, we figured them out in the first week of the season, and they had the whole season to play together. Our 4s and our 5s, there was a bit more movement, as we talked about in the first segment. So they weren't really eligible for some of those awards for a first or second team, simply because a lot of them didn't have the body of work together. But it was really incredible to see the 3 teams that had played the entire season together get acknowledged for the work that they had put in. RA has been incredible. She's a junior transfer for us, and she is such a creative player. She's a lefty, and so most people cannot read her. There was a girl, Julia Blazik, who played for Coastal. For some reason, she could read everything RA was going to do, but I haven't seen anybody else figure out what RA was going to do. And RA and Lila playing together, when they were both on, they were just absolutely unstoppable as fireworks. It was so much fun to watch. And then, like I said, Destiny and Savannah, that's a brand new pair. So Savannah was a freshman for us this year. Destiny was a junior. And finding their chemistry early on in season and just kind of working through so many emotions, like Savannah figuring out what the college space feels like. And I think the very first weekend, she had a match that went to 3, and it was just a grind. And she came out and was just talking to Delmo, and she was like, man, that was exhausting. And I think that's the biggest thing coming from high school to college, and that in high school you will play, or juniors, right? You're going to play some games that are easy. In college, there are no easy games. And some of them you really, you empty the tank out there. And we talk about that all the time, to leave it all in the sand. So we have no regrets. And sometimes we're going to win and sometimes we're going to lose. But if we put our whole heart, our full effort, and our best attitudes forward, we'll always be able to leave with our heads high.
All right, again, you finished 9-0 in Sunbelt play, and just for Panther fans listening, when I say Sunbelt beach volleyball, I'm talking Georgia State, UNC Wilmington, our former conference mates from the old CAA, Coastal Carolina, College of Charleston, who we used to be in the league with, Mercer, Southern Miss, Louisiana Monroe, and then Stephen F. Austin from Natchitoches, Texas, is in the Sunbelt for beach volleyball. I mean, really competitive from top to bottom.
Yeah, absolutely competitive. And I think it's, probably very sunny in Texas where they are as well. So it makes sense for them to be in the Sunbelt. It's been great competing in the Sunbelt this year. We started a mid-season event. This was the first year we had that. So we all tried really hard to get as many schools as possible within the Sunbelt on our regular schedule. But for any teams we couldn't schedule, we went to this mid-season event in Huntsville, Alabama, and got to play. And so every school played two duels each day, so for a total of 4 duels. So for the first time since we've been in a conference, everyone had results against everyone, which truly helped the conference seeding when we got to the end of the season. Last year it was a little bit of a debacle because so many schools hadn't played each other, and we were having to use so many different metrics to figure out what the seeding would look like. So this year Sunbelt came up with this mid-season solution, and it really helped to answer a lot of those questions for seeding at the end of the season.
As I mentioned earlier, Georgia State used to be in the CCSA, which is still run by the Atlantic Sun Conference. Now you got Conference USA, which is TCU, Florida International, Tulane, UAB, FAU, Texas El Paso, Tarleton, Jacksonville State, and Missouri State. My point of saying that is you go back to when it was just the CCSA, and then you look at, again, the South Carolinas, the Florida States, some of the what we'll call the Power 5 schools that are now playing beach volleyball. And beach volleyball's presence on the East Coast may not be the same reputation on the West Coast, but beach volleyball on the East Coast is really, by leaps and bounds, getting better and better quickly in the world that you guys play in.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of evolution happening. And initially, the CCSA was created because we had so many powerhouse schools on the East Coast that didn't have a home and couldn't have any kind of postseason unless they made it to the national championship. So the commissioner from ASUN kind of stepped in and said, hey, let's take this swimming organization and make it a sporting organization and add beach volleyball so that there are more opportunities for these women to continue their season in a postseason fashion. And so when CCSA started, it was the most it was the strongest, deepest conference, stronger and harder than Pac-12. And now with Pac-12 kind of moving around, that'll be a different discussion next year. But for the longest time, CCSA was the hardest conference to win. And I think they did a really nice job of forcing the automatic qualifiers coming up and really positioning that conference to have as much access to some of those AQs. And so what we saw was the Conference USA, the Sun Belt, kind of spin off of the CCSA so that there are more opportunities for at-large bids on the East Coast. And it's been really cool seeing those bids pay off at the national championship over the last couple of years and some of those incredible matchups that we've had.
Well, Coach, congrats on a great season. Again, 26-13 overall, undefeated in the Sun Belt, 9-0, and Coach of the Year honors. Congrats on a great season. It's always great to talk to you. I know you're already busy. You'll be busy this summer because as quickly as the season comes to an end, right away, there's very little downtime in any college athletic sport nowadays. You're already focused in on replacing some pretty good players, getting your schedule, and before you know it, you'll be back out in the sand behind here in the sports arena. But it's always great to talk to you, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me on, Dave. I am always honored and excited to get to speak with you about this team. They're an incredible group of humans, and we're so happy to be able to compete for Georgia State. So thank you.
All right, and if you want to read more about Georgia State's run to the NCAA Beach Volleyball Championships, you can visit online at georgiastatesports.com. Again, want to congratulate Coach Van Fleet, who herself is a former Georgia State athlete. We'll save that story for another day. But again, congrats on everything they accomplished this year, making it all the way to the NCAA Beach Volleyball Championships and facing the third seed Stanford Cardinal. Panther fans, a reminder, we're back talking Georgia State athletics again soon on the Panther Insider podcast driven by Ford. So for head coach Beth Van Fleet, Dave Cohen saying thanks for listening. We'll see you at Center Park Stadium, the GSU Convocation Center, Panthersville, or maybe even out back of the sports arena here at the beach volleyball sand courts. And as always, go Panthers!